Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We just sat through the full live reveal of all the new Kaldheim mechanics and a bunch of preview cards. We've got a lot to go over, but first, if you would, go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed already. We're going to get into these mechanics and into some of these new cards. So let's swap over and look at this stuff. So we saw today that our mechanics for this set are going to be Foretell and Boast. Foretell is about seeing a spell that's coming in the future, and Boast is about attacking and then telling about it, telling the story of your feats. Foretell says here, at any time during your turn, you can pay 2 and exile a card with Foretell face down. Then on a future turn, you can cast the card from exile by paying the Foretell cost, which is the mana cost listed as part of the Foretell keyword, rather than paying its mana cost. Set up the future and then watch it come to pass. So one of the things that I thought was interesting that we saw about this mechanic here is that you can't cast it on the same turn you exile it. However, the Foretell is optional, so you can just cast the spell as normal if you're looking for immediate impact. So let's look at some cards here. Foretell 2 for Behold the Multiverse. It's a 4-cost instant spell that says scry 2, draw 2. Foretell, though, you can on your turn pay 2 and exile it face down, and then later, on a later turn, not the same turn, at instant speed, because the spell is an instant, you can scry 2 and draw 2 for 1 blue and 1 other. This seems excellent. I know, you know, the 4 mana instant speed scry 2 draw 2 spell has seen play in constructed decks in many different sets, and so I have to imagine the same thing is going to be present here, is going to be relevant here. This card is going to see play. I think it's pretty excellent, honestly. You've also got cards like Augury Raven, which seems like a really good limited card here. 2 to exile it face down. On a later turn, you get a 3/3 flyer for 2 mana, and on that individual turn, it's only requiring 2 mana, even though altogether it is costing 4. So Foretell is pretty interesting. We saw some other cards that we'll get into. We're going to look at all of the cards that we've have access to so far. The other mechanic is Boast, and it started with Vorinclex, Blood Sky Sire. It's a 3-cost 2/3 Demon Rogue Death Toucher, and for Boast, which is activated ability, but only if the creature has attacked this turn, and only once each turn. Vorinclex's activated ability here is target player searches their library for a card, shuffles their library, and puts it on top of it. So we've got Vampiric Tutor here on an attacking creature, which is pretty ridiculous, I have to say. I'm very excited to play with this card. It's one of those cards, right, that seems too good to be true, so it probably is. I would be interested to see how it actually plays, though. I mean, there's a lot that this can do. It's got rogue creature type, which is already relevant. There are very good blue-black decks that are already in existence with rogue, and the ability to search up that 1 removal spell you need at the right time is pretty huge. We already knew modal double face cards were going to come back. We saw Halvar, God of Battle, in the last, I guess teaser section of this that they did back in December. I already ran a video on Halvar, so go and check that out. My first thoughts on the God of Battle. And then of course we've also got our dual modal face lands. We've got official confirmation now that snow is returning. Snow-covered lands will be back in a new frame with our little text box down here that I love so much. I love how this looks like frost has been wiped away from the mana symbol. And then we've got Frostbite, which is a snow instant. 1 mana shock to a creature or planeswalker, but if you control at least 3 or more snow permanents, it's a 1 mana lightning bolt to a creature or planeswalker. So that's pretty cool. It doesn't hit players, but still a good removal spell. 1 mana is always a good thing. We also knew that that sagas were going to be coming back. Showdown of the Scalds is a card we've seen, and we're also going to get Changeling back in the game in this set. So let's take it over to Mythic Spoiler. We're going to take a look here at the cards that we have seen and the cards that we saw today. We've talked about a lot of these, so I'm going to skip over those, but I just want to talk about the new cards that we saw during this preview event. Jake and I will be doing streams throughout the preview season that go over the cards individually and kind of give you both of our takes on those. So check out, make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when we go live talking about the new Kaldheim cards. What we saw today, though, Auren, God of the Cosmos. 2 blue, 3 for a legendary god 1/1. Gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand and each foretold card you own in exile. And at the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, reveal the top 2 cards of your library, put all cards of the chosen type into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And the other side of this is Hakka, Whispering Raven. 2 mana, 2/3 flyer. When it deals combat damage to a player, return it to its owner's hand, then scry 2. So you can early on play Hakka for 2 mana onto the battlefield, have it attack through, deal some combat damage, come back, scry 2, and then you already have, or then you again have the card in your hand so you can cast Auren the second time, God of the Cosmos, and have this, you know, +1/+1 creature, and then at the beginning of your end step, you get to choose a card type, reveal the top 2, put cards of the chosen type into your hand, rest on the bottom of your library in any order. That card seems like it could be pretty silly, especially with a card like Uro. But, you know, we'll see how it plays in Historic and Standard. We also got our first look at Tibble. I know everybody is excited to talk about Tibble. With Tibble, we have got a very expensive Planeswalker on the back of a not expensive at all creature. And as far as I know, this is going to be a Planeswalker, if you want, out of the command zone. You've got the legendary god on one side, and then you've got the legendary planeswalker on the other. Valki, God of Lies, is a 1 black, 1 other legendary god. When it enters a battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. Each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. And then you can pay X, which is the converted mana cost of one of the creature cards in exile, and it becomes a copy of that card. The other side of this is Tibble, Cosmic Imposter. 5, 6, 7 mana. Ooh, that's a lot. 7 mana for a 5 loyalty walker. As it enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with, you may play cards exiled with Tibble, Cosmic Imposter, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. That's pretty solid. +2, exile the top card of each player's library. -3, exile target artifact or creature. So you can come into the battlefield, exile a creature, and then if you've still got mana, cast it. I know we're talking Rakdos colors here, so that's pretty tough to do, but still a possibility. Exile it and then cast it on a later turn. You can also -X to exile all cards from all graveyards and add 3 red mana. This is interesting to me. It's Rakdos, and so if you're playing this as your commander, you know, 7 mana for a 5 loyalty walker, yeesh, 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 especially in these color combinations, yeesh, yeesh, yeesh. But it seems like it's got some appropriate power level here. Exiling, you know, if you're playing commander, exile 3 cards with its +2, and you're able to cast those. You get an emblem with that. You can play cards exiled with it, and that emblem is great. Because it's great that it makes an emblem, because Tibble can be removed and those cards are still accessible to you. You don't necessarily need Tibble on the battlefield to cast that. And so I think that to cast those cards that are in exile, and so I think the fact that it has this emblem on it is a pretty huge thing as far as the playability of the card. I really love this. I really love this dual face modal thing. I've talked about this the first time we saw it in Zendikar, that I just think it's a great design and that they should keep doing that. Auren's Epiphany is a 7 mana sorcery. Create 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying, take an extra turn, exile it. You can foretell it, pay 2, exile it. On another turn, future turn, you can pay 6 and cast this, take an extra turn. I mean, off the rip, this doesn't look wild, but I'm always afraid of blue mythics that say take an extra turn. Maybe they learned their lesson with the last time around, and they've powered this one down. Obviously, exiling it is a huge thing here so that we don't see it pop back up in the future, but it still always has that possibility, right, of being a huge control finisher. you know, some kind of get the lock, cast the Epiphany. I've got my 2/1/1 flyers now, you know, I'm 10 swings away. But at that point, your opponent's probably conceding, I would assume. So, you know, whether or not you need to swing 10 times is up in the air. Today we're only going to go over the cards that we saw during the preview event, so we're not going to talk about some of these other spoilers, some of these other leaks that we're seeing. I'll save that for when Jake and I go through all of the cards kind of methodically. Inga Rune Eyes we saw earlier, 1 blue, 3 other for a 3/3 human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, scry 3. When it dies, draw 3 cards if 3 or more creatures died this turn. I like having, you know, some board wipe protection, especially on a flyer. If you're building some kind of blue-white flyers deck, you're going to have a lot of tokens in the air, and board wipes are going to be what really punch you in the gut. And so to have the ability to draw 3 cards if 3 of your creatures are dying, that's pretty sick. Elvish War Master, 1 green, 1 other. I'm going to bring Elvish War Master up a little bit bigger because I think that this is a pretty exciting creature. 1 green, 1 other. Elvish War Master is a 2/2 elf warrior. Whenever 1 or more other elves enters the battlefield, whenever 1 or more other elves enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Also, we've got the 7-cost activated ability for elves we control to get +2/+2 and gain Death Touch until end of turn, and that does include himself. It's not other elves. So they all can swing with a nice little double anthem, +2/+2, and if they do get blocked, they're taking whatever is blocking out with them, which is pretty epic. We already talked about Varragoth Bloodsky Sire. We talked about Frostbite and Augury Raven. I want to look at Glimpse the Cosmos, because I think that this is a card that we're going to be seeing a lot of while it's in Standard. 1 blue, 1 other for a sorcery speed. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. But as long as you control a giant, you can cast Glimpse the Cosmos from your graveyard by paying blue rather than paying its mana cost. If you cast it this way, it gets exiled, so you can't do that over and over again. I think this card is wildly powerful. It seems like there's some kind of Giants, Is It Giants deck forming right now, and this is absolutely in it. Absolutely in it. It's, you know, Classic Anticipate, I believe, is the card. But the ability here to recast it then for 1 blue if your Bone Crusher Giant is on the battlefield, which is what I most often see this being played along in Standard. You'll get to do it again for just 1 blue mana. That's pretty sick. In Historic, until they ban Uro, this card is going into Uro because Uro is a giant, if I'm not mistaken. And so I know that, you know, that Simic deck is definitely going to run this kind of draw spell, especially since you get double value off of that spell, off of the ability to use it if you've got a giant on the battlefield. We also saw Old Growth Troll. Let's check out Old Growth Troll because this is bonkers. Yeah, confirmed Uro's a giant. Thank you for that. 3 green, 4/4 Troll Warrior. Oh boy, what do we got here? What is this? What are we doing? Trample, 4/4. When Old Growth Troll dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment now with Enchant Forest you control, and Enchanted Forest has tap, add 2 green, and 1 tap, sack this land, create a tapped 4/4 green Troll Warrior creature token with Trample. So this thing comes back to buff your land and make your land tap for double. But then it also comes back. You do have to sacrifice the land, but in the right deck, late in the game, you don't care if you're sacking lands. You'll gladly sack a land to get a 4/4 back. This card is sick. This card is so good. I'm a big fan of it. One of my favorite cards when it was in Standard was Steel Leaf Champion, which is that green, 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 baby. Green, green, green. The problem with Steel Leaf Champion was that it didn't have Trample. Hi, Old Growth Troll. How are you doing? Good to see you. Welcome to the battlefield. I know I'm going to cast you a lot. I'm very excited about you. We talked about Behold the Multiverse, and we have talked about Realm Walker. We also got Serif's Packmate. It was shown off as part of the whole Foretell thing, which is, I mean, it's a really good limited card. This is going to be a dope limited creature. Enters the battlefield, draw a card, it's a 3/3 for 4. Pay 2 mana to Foretell. So you pay 2, exile it on a future turn. Pay bear cost, baby. 2 mana, get a 3/3, draw a card. That's a really good common. That is a really good common. So getting into the more exciting cards, we have got Nico Aris, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is a new blue-white planeswalker. Blue-blue-white for a 3 loyalty planeswalker. It's also got X on there, and when it enters the battlefield, create X shard tokens. So if you can see this right here, this is what a shard token is. They're enchantments with pay 2, sacrifice this enchantment, scry 1, draw a card. So they're okay. In and of themselves, they are fairly beneficial. You know, I think it's going to be in the aggregate where these really pay off. The +1 ability on Nico, up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals damage this turn, return it to its owner's hand. This is a weird one for me. This is a weird ability for me. This whole Planeswalker is kind of weird for me, the design of it, because it seems aggressive, right? It seems like, I mean, that +1 just kind of throws me off, because the other we can see are fairly defensive. -1, Nico deals 2 damage to target tapped creature for each card you've drawn this turn. -1, create a shard token. So we can make more shard tokens, but we do have to go down in loyalty to do that. However, a 3 cost walker with 3 loyalty is pretty good. Pretty good. And if you are getting in there with creatures, I mean, that +1 up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked and it returned to its hand. I mean, I guess if you got some good, like, ETB creatures in your blue and white semi-aggressive attacking deck, yeah, like Skyclave Apparition, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's actually really good now that I think about it. Thank you, chat, for suggesting Skyclave Apparition. Oh my goodness. Yeah, absolutely. Plus, shards are enchantments, and so you have to think about, okay, well, Theros block really got Constellation going again, enchantments matter going again, and so it's got to have some play in that too, as far as I'm concerned. The potential exists for this Planeswalker. I'm really excited to try it out. I love a Planeswalker with X in the cost. That's pretty cool because it's, you know, late game drawing your 3-cost walker. You're like, all right, well, it's not all bad. We get a bunch of shards when it comes into the battlefield. We're scrying, we're drawing, we have enchantment, we're triggering, you know, Constellation. I'm seeing Archon of Sun's Grace. That's an excellent card to trigger with these shards. You know, I think that it's got some potential the more I explore it. I really love that Skyclave Apparition idea. To be able to swing through with your Skyclave Apparition, return it to your hand. They will get a token creature for whatever, you know, you exiled because you are going to be leaving the battlefield. But when it gets back, bing, bang, boom, you're ready to go. We saw Cole the Forge Master, which I think is a really good uncommon for the 99 of your equipment deck, but I just wanted to look at this art. This art on here is so tight to me. I wish this had actually been on a mythic or something, so that the possibility that it was like a main commander playable card was a little bit higher. But for 2 mana, we get a 2/2 whenever another non-token creature you control dies. If it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. Creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. So, not bad. Good in the 99 of a deck that takes that kind of ability and really takes advantage of the synergy of that. Past that, we got our snow-covered lands here. You can see the art. We kind of went over these really quickly. I love the frost look on here. We also got these tap lands that are both land types and they are snow lands. They do enter the battlefield tapped, but they are, you know, searchable. We got Plains Island, Mountain Forest, Island Swamp. This is the kind of card that you can go and get with, you know, any of your search up land abilities. which I think is pretty excellent. Sadly, they do enter the battlefield tapped. However, I do understand it. You know, they had two options here. If it's coming into the battlefield tapped, if it's not coming into the battlefield tapped, it's absolutely busted, and the lands have to be mythics, and the whole thing is just weird. But they could have made these shock lands. However, that would have made this their rare cycle, snow shocks, I guess is what we would call those. Snow shocks could be a real thing, but again, they would have to make that their rare cycle, and they really wanted to, it seems, finish out that modal DFC. You know, the rare lands are pathways, if you will, which we saw some more of today here with the Arc Channel, Dark Boar, Blightstep, Hingegate. We might have already seen these, but I think they also reiterated them on the stream today. So, that is the new preview cards that we learned. Let me swap it back over. Everybody watching this video on demand, thank you so much for watching. Live chat, stick around. We're not going anywhere. I'm just wrapping this video up. If you're watching this video on demand, thank you so much. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We really love your support. We appreciate your support so much. If you want to, check out our Patreon. You get Discord access, and we got a lot of cool perks over there, a lot of cool giveaways all the time. So make sure you go check that out and see if you're a good fit. Other than that, my name's Joel. Those are the first look of Kaldheim previews. I am tapped out. I hope to catch everybody on the flippity flip. See you later, warehouse. Okay, all right. See you later, warehouse.